Now, with a career that spans over 4 decades, Sello Maake Ka-Ncube is a force to be reckoned with. He's one of South Africa's most esteemed actors and voice actors, having performed in theatre, film and television both in his native land as well as in the United States, in Britain, Canada and Europe. The veteran actor joins us now this morning to share more on his journey into acting and what still drives him 40 years later. Sello, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to Morning Live. Hi, Sello. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you doing, sir?
Hey, I'm all right. How are you, Simple?
Good to see you, man, and good to have you on the show. You're celebrating 40 years in the industry. What still drives your passion for acting, Sello?
Love. Nothing else but love. You know, they say love can make you do things that you thought you never thought you would do.
Certainly.
And basically, it is just love. And I think it is a love relationship that probably was intrinsic, but then I think it began to manifest itself. You know, it began to manifest itself. I think once I was 15 years old, when I saw a play for the first time by Gibson Kente. And then from then on, I just kept on imitating what I saw in the play. And that started my career in 1981. But my first time on stage was in 1976. Sure. You know, and I still remember very well, it was at Lady Hall. But yeah, it is love more than anything.
You're quite right. I mean, with love, you can do anything and it makes your work flow so seamlessly. And what would you say was your biggest breakthrough in the industry? I mean, I know that so many of us still refer you to as Archie Moroka from Generations.
I guess, I think that probably was. But I would say, my breakthrough, if I would look, it would be my professional debut with the Gibson Kente in 1981. But I guess to be endeared into people's hearts, the thing that really got me that was Generations. Even though prior to that was also, it's a combination, but I think Generation actually stood out more. Okay. With the character of Archie Moroka. And I think that is what endeared me into people's hearts. And and it's a relationship that has also survived or, has been strong since that time. Because even now, I find myself going out and then, and I'll still be referred by Archie Moroka, though most of the time it will be telling of the person's age,
Yeah, and I'm sorry to say this, but you'll live with the Archie Moroka tag for the rest of your life. Even though for those AMA 2000 who don't know who Archie Moroka is, they'll still refer to you as Archie Moroka. And you've worked on so many productions, from international to local and as well as theatre. And you're basically an all-rounder. So do you think that your versatility led to the longevity in your career?
Well, I think I would imagine so, but I guess, I don't know. Yeah, I guess so. In fact, one thing that is very clear with this business is it's about luck, on one hand as well, Sure. So maybe it's a combination of factors, but I guess, being able to, perform in the theater and also on television, somehow, just sustains you a little bit better and even a little bit longer. Yeah. And I think there are two mediums that are just special, very special to me. I think the stage, theater gives me a training ground, and I think a platform on which I, master my technique. And I always refer television and, film as basically like, what is it? The other one, theater, is home stove cooking, and television and film is microwave cooking. When you're yes, when you're in the theater, then you're cooking everything slowly.
Right.
You keep on tasting. You will watch it simmer. But on camera, you just give results. You
Sure.
just give a well-cooked meal in seconds.
And just making that juxtaposition between in stove samalahle and the microwave, which was more beneficial to you? Was it television work or theater?
They contributed both, because the other one helps you to master a technique.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Which, if ever you don't actually have it, you don't have it, then even your sustenance maybe in television will be, But I guess when you come to what is it? What is it? Not being noticed stakes. Then that's, television, you're actually open to a larger audience than, with theater, which basically at a time, you would be watched by maybe 150 people. If you are in a much bigger theater, then it is 300 to 400. But television, man, you're watched by millions at a time.
Sure.
So when it comes to being, noticed stakes, then television is the one that is much stronger.
Yeah. And having mentioned your love for acting, I mean, you said that love drives you. Your love for acting drives you and sustains you in this industry. Let's talk about your love for acting.
Yeah.
How was it back then getting to the industry that wasn't as popular as it was, as it is today? And was it purely to entertain the masses?
Look, it was more than that. I mean, it was, entertaining the masses, but, there was something that was very special. I mean, if you take me back to those days, I mean, the very first play that I saw by Gibson Kenter called How Long? It was a politically charged message, a play with a politically charged message. And I think, there was this whole thing of that work had to reflect what people were going through at that time. And I think, in a way, also inspiring them, inspiring them in a way that they, they would reflect on themselves and maybe try to, do something about their environment. I mean, How Long, is one play that, is also looked as having even inspired the 76 youth at that time.
Yeah, yeah. And
yes.
With this industry, Priscillo, comes fame, fortune, and protecting your brand and all other work. How do you remain so humble after such a long career span in the industry?
I always say it's fame with no fortune to match.
Yeah, ne?
Yes, I mean, that is the truth. But I guess, I think things are kind of changing now, because, with I think the platforms are multiplying around us, I mean, at first we just used to look at SABC and, and maybe Mnet. I mean, now, other platforms are coming into the picture, the Netflixes and whatever. So, I mean, I think, COVID has in a way opened up the space in a much bigger way.
Sure.
But I guess also when it comes to brand, I mean, people always talk about, I mean, I always love it when I hear, these young people, when they talk about, I'm still working on my brand, I'm still working on my brand.
Yeah.
For me, your brand was formed long before you even knew that you were a brand. And it was formed, I guess, in what? I mean, when you were conceived,
Okay.
And the thing about it is that what you have to do is that you have got to start doing something that now highlights your brand. I mean, you look, I mean, in the olden days when people didn't know how to write, they were made to sign with a fingerprint, And today when you go into the bank, what do they, rely on more than anything? They used to rely on signatures, but
yes.
now they don't rely on signatures. They rely on your fingerprint.
Yes.
And that just tells you are a brand. nobody akekho ufana nawe.
Sure, indeed, indeed.
You know what I mean?
That is so
And at the end of the
heartwarming
day, so-
and encouraging for so many people out there. Especially, I quite like what you said, that your brand, you became a brand even before you came to the realization to realize that you are actually a brand. So, what can our generation of actors learn from your generation, especially when it comes to knowledge, protecting your art, and as well as respecting your craft?
I guess, I mean, and it is just simple home, old style, being raised, to respect yourself,
Yes. Yes.
I mean, like, maskula, but umntana kabani lo?
Hey.
You know what I mean?
Hey, man.
So at the end of the day, that was, in fact, if you look at it, it was making you realize that you are representing, you are an ambassador of your family. You know what I mean? So I think, it's one of those things, and we need to go back to that time when we were, our humanity reigned before anything else. Somehow things have taken a turnaround where now it is like the possessions that you have and how you present yourself and how, somebody's character and, people no longer take care of that character, and your character, is what makes you, if we look at people like Steve Biko and even, Utata, these are people that you realize they pushed character before anything else. Character is is defined by a series of action that one person decides to take. So you have to choose a series of actions that are going to define your character in such a way that it places it in high regard as far as life is concerned.
And,
and I think that is what I would say to young people, that say, just be careful on the series of actions that you choose that will ultimately, define your character.
Touche, I quite agree with you, especially, choosing the series of actions that will define your character. And I suppose it underscores who you are. It underscores your future in this industry or in whatever field or discipline that you find yourself in. And just how important is protecting your craft, knowing your value, how to calculate your worth before taking a job. And I suppose it brings us back to the discussion on brands, on, describing yourself as a brand. Because some people would be like, no, I'm too big for this role that I'm being offered, or I'm too big for this salary that I'm being offered.
Look, I mean, it goes with time, though. The other thing one cannot ignore is that artists are taken for granted.
Yes.
Somehow you just look at our environment, and somehow even the conflicts that artists are finding themselves with government, with the production houses and all that. You know what I mean? But I guess it also has to do with the fact that we have a very unregulated space. And somehow our unity is also going to be the one that will help us to actually have this space, well respected, But the most important thing is just to know your worth. I'm 40 years in the industry, and you still find people who still kind of like try to expect me to work for peanuts, and I just say, hey guys, just bear in mind, I'm not a monkey,
Sure.
I don't eat peanuts,
We're out of time, unfortunately, Priscillo, but just briefly, you partnered with your son on Mentor a Boy-Child initiative. How is that coming along?
Right.
And in the same breath, you could also tell us about your foundation, how that is coming along,
Absolutely.
and the kind of work that you mainly focus on.
Look, the foundation is it's focusing on promoting arts. The arts and culture, but more especially, the performing arts. And I started with an incubation that I did in Carltonville, in 2018. And also one of my passions is actually on gender issues, and with the prevalence of gender-based violence the way it is at the moment, and you look at how basically as boy children we are raised, that actually led me to realize that, you know what, I need to actually start creating these conversations between intergenerational conversations. You know, I'd already started just doing them privately with my sons, you know, and last year we did the father-son campaign, which we collaborated with the Soweto Television. And basically, it was just opening conversations between fathers and sons, and just also the importance of fatherhood, you know. And men, we got to realize that, you know, unless we really stand up and realize that, you know, we cannot be promoting this thing of, you know, I mean, when I hear women saying they're single parents, it breaks my heart. But I know how we men have contributed to that. And it doesn't make sense to me how a man would go and have a child with a woman and then not want to be part of that. Yeah. You know, I grew up also with that. And I basically like being breaking it down, having conversations with my sons and just making them realize that, boys, it doesn't make sense. Think twice when you go into that space of, you know, creating a child. Because if anything, if we are to look at it properly, it is actually when we go into our God space. You know, it is when we go into our creative space and we're becoming godlike, because in that space we're creating human beings, and somehow we just take it as a space to just play around. And at the end of the day, children are the ones that suffer.
Yeah, just listening to this coming from a person of your stature, it certainly warms my heart, because the father-son conversations are the kinds of conversations that we'll be having on a daily basis. And if that happens, then we wouldn't be seeing the high level of rapes in our country. We wouldn't be seeing the high level of gender-based violence perpetrated by men. So it's sort of, it certainly warms my heart, you know, seeing men of your stature taking a stand against such an initiative. And yeah, we do appreciate your time, and we do appreciate you for all the work that you've done in this industry and the kinds of life that you've inspired. We salute you, and yeah, we'll always pay tribute to you. Thank you so much for joining us, Brasilo, this morning.
No, thank you very much, man. And you know, one thing that I just forgot is that I'm also a brand ambassador of Play Your Part in, with Brand SA. Okay. And I think if South Africans, we can just make sure, let's play our part and build our country.
Okay, great stuff. Unfortunately, we have to end it there because I need to take news. But thank you so much for joining us.
Cheers, man.